Hey, it's me, MLP. Here's chapter 61 of Serendipity. This one's titled Suspect Number 1. Who was the guard on duty at that time? You asked the guard. I'm not sure. Let me check the log. He got up and walked over to the roster on the wall, then placed his finger over yesterday's list and slid it down until it lined up with the time period covering 5 a.m. No one was on. The last person was Bryce, but he finished at 4 a.m. This just keeps getting more and more dodgy, you commented to no one in particular. Deku nodded. Okay, thank you, he said to the guard as he stood up and you followed suit. You and Deku walked to the door and left, heading back to your room together. As you got off the elevator and walked to your room, you saw Philip walking away from your door. Philip? You called out to him. He spun around quickly and looked at you both. Oh, you're still here, thank God, he said, covering his heart with his hand. Were you looking for us? You asked him. Yes, I just tried knocking, but you didn't answer, so I thought you may have left the hotel, he said. Well, what did you need? Deku asked him. Well, the manager told me that you suspect that dear Maya's death wasn't an accident. This is a shock to me. Why is it a shock to you? You asked curiously. Well, like I said before, who could harm her? It must surely have been an accident. She just had too much to drink and fell in the pool and then hit her head and... He burst into tears and you tilted your head at him. Something just wasn't right here. If I was in his position, I'd be wanting to make sure that it wasn't anything suspicious. He seems too pushy with wanting it to be signed off as an accident, you thought. Philip, you said to him, we, Deku and I, just want to give justice to Maya if there has been any foul play, you stated. He stopped crying and wiped his eyes. You're right, he sniffed. I'm sorry, you're doing a wonderful job. He looked directly at you. You're very talented, Mrs. Midoriya, you stated stiffly. Mrs. Oh, are you two married? He asked, finally looking at Deku, who nodded. Well, it makes sense that you would be. Such a perfect hero couple, he gushed. I don't trust this guy, you thought. Well, Philip, we will be in contact if we find anything, Deku said to the guy. Oh, thank you, Philip said with a bow. Please, here's my number. Please call me if you find anything. He handed a piece of paper with his number on it to Deku and then walked away, and you looked up at your man. We need to talk about him, you whispered as you entered your hotel room together. For the next few hours, Deku rang all the guests on the guest list and got their stories of what happened last night. Understandably, they were all surprised and horrified to know that their colleague Maya had passed away, and each gave a different reaction, but all were very genuine, and after their initial shock, a number of them were concerned for Philip. Everyone had left that morning a little earlier because they had to work later the following night and didn't want to be too hungover for their shift, so everyone had already gone home and had been in bed by the time the incident happened. All had alibis and their partners could vouch for them being home and asleep by 5 a.m. That just leaves Philip, you said. He's the only one we haven't spoken to. It sounds like Maya wasn't a big drinker. Everyone said they saw her with a drink, but according to those closest to the bar, she only had 2 light drinks that night. Those who had known her the longest also stated that she had never been big on alcohol. Deku rubbed his chin. I know how I feel about this situation, but we'll wait to see what the Mortician's report is. Do you think Philip came back and killed her, then left again? You asked. It's a sad possibility, Deku said. We'll have to question him. Is there anyone else we need to check with first? You asked. No, Deku shook his head. Everyone had left, so apparently it was just Maya left in the room. Why was she there alone? You asked rhetorically. Was she asked to stay back? Did Philip ask her to stay back and tell her he was going to come back, and when he did, he killed her? But what about the counterfeit money? Is this all connected? You asked some very good questions, Deku said, reaching out to pull you in for a cuddle. This cuddle is all very nice, but we need answers, you replied playfully. We need to ask the manager about the time period when no one was in security. That's a bit suspicious. Deku nodded. Just then his mobile phone rang and he answered it. Oh, yes, he asked, looking at you as the person on the other end spoke. So she wasn't drunk when she died? he asked into the receiver. There was a pause and another reply. Hit with something heavy to the back of the head, not concurrent with pull edging. Okay, thank you. He hung up. Was that the Mortician? You asked, kissing his cheek. He nodded. Yin, I think we're dealing with a murder here. Maya didn't have any alcohol in her system, and the bump on the back of her head isn't from the pull edging. I knew something wasn't right, he said proudly. Now, my first suspect is Philip. Mine too, Deku replied, standing up with you still in his arms. Let's go and talk to him now. You both left to go and find Philip, and found him in the staff room, talking happily with other staff there. Philip? You asked. May we have a word? Oh, yes, of course, he replied, walking over. What can I help you with? Just a few routine questions, Deku said with a polite smile. Would you mind coming with us? Philip gave you both a suspicious look, but followed you anyway, walking with you to a more secluded part of the hotel lobby. Where did you go after you left the party last night? Deku asked gently. Is this an interrogation? Philip asked, getting defensive immediately. No, we've asked everyone the same question, Deku replied calmly. This is just routine. Are you implying I was involved with Maya's death? Philip asked with an exaggerated surprised look on his face. I'm very sorry, Philip, my man, but I suspect you too. Stay tuned for the next chapter, which will be chapter 62.